It seems so preposterous that an Indian girl like me who grew up in America would then wind up on Italy's #1 rated show as the sidekick to the main host. You know, it's like a fluke.
Pleasure to meet you, by the way.
Nice to meet you too.
It's amazing, just your career is like, it's unbelievable to see one person can do that in a whole lifetime. And you've done it in such a short time of like packing a lot in. Were you like, as a kid, always doing a lot and moving around, and was this always your dream to do multiple things?
No, I wish I could tell you I had a grand plan. I didn't, you know, at all. I didn't get really awake till, I would say, high school, you know, just in being involved in stuff. And I think at first it was just a way for me to get out of the house that was a kosher way rather than, you know, rather than rebelling or, you know, so if I just threw myself into a bunch of extracurricular activities, and that would take me away from having to be at home, which wasn't always a great place. I don't think it's by design. Like, I don't think I set out to always be so busy. I would like to be less busy now.
It doesn't seem like it.
Fewer better things. Fewer better things is what I always say.
Obviously, before you won Emmys as a host and producer, you were a very successful model. And I think you said you spent time in Italy. Were you modeling there?
Yeah, I started modeling modeling in the last semester of my bachelor's degree in Spain, and then went back to graduate and then modeled. So I started modeling at 21, later than most models begin. And I think that was helpful to me. I think because I had a college degree, I learned to look at the opportunities for what they were. And I also did not let that industry eat me up, which it can do and does do to a lot of promising young women. It can be really demoralizing for a lot of young people. And so I personally wouldn't want somebody I loved to enter into that industry for those reasons. Now, for me, I needed the money. You know, I needed to pay off my college loans, and it was a boon to me. I was so thankful to model because I paid off my college loans a lot faster than most of the people I went to college with.
Was there like a moment where you were just like going along, making money, paying off your college loans was the right thing to do, and then it was like, oh, someone came to you with an opportunity? Or as you were doing that, were you always like, I gotta figure a way out of this. I gotta figure how do I jump to the next lily pad and get out of modeling?
No, I would love to tell you that it was the latter, but I didn't have that much foresight. The director of this TV show, which was the highest rated Italian television show called Domenica Inn, and he saw me actually. He saw me in this interview, and he found out who my agent was, and he called the agent and invited me to audition for this show, and I didn't really watch that kind of television. I didn't really want the job, but it was a good opportunity, and I knew enough to know that it was a good opportunity.
Had you thought about TV before that?
No, I hadn't. I mean, I studied theater, so yes, tangentially, of course I thought of film and TV, but not as a host, not as myself. And I had a ball, and I really enjoyed it. I love live television. I think I'm best when I don't have time to think.
Really?
And I'm just, yeah.
I'm just going and being.
Yeah, I think there's a real
you have fun doing that?
Yes, there's such an adrenaline rush to having to think on your feet. You know, it's like, I don't know how to tap dance, but all of a sudden I'm thrown into this thing I'm gonna learn on the job, you know, and I did. It seems so preposterous that an Indian girl like me who grew up in America would then wind up on Italy's #1 rated show as the sidekick to the main host. You know, it's like a fluke. And so from that, an agent saw me on that, and she...
In America?
No, still in Italy, and she called my agent, and she said, I would like to put her in this role, but I need her to go audition for it. And I had never really acted before professionally, and I got the role, and then off I went to Cuba for 4 months to film this swashbuckling historical drama.
And were you still modeling while you were doing this, or had you dropped modeling?
No, I was still doing the odd job when it came up, but I really...
You had determined this is my next...
Yeah, I mean, look, being a model is in many ways like being an athlete. There is a finite amount of time where you're going to be a viable commodity just because of age and nature, you know? So I could see the writing on the wall, and I was happy to utilize parts of me that weren't just my appearance. You know, television is still a visual medium, I'm very aware of that, but it was nice for me to be able to exercise muscles I didn't know I had. And I, along the way, wrote a book because I had to gain weight for that movie in Cuba. I had to gain, like, I don't know, I want to say 15, 20 pounds because the director wanted me to be more voluptuous. And, you know, then I had to lose the weight. I was still making most of my living as a model, you know, and I had never tried to lose weight before, and I loved cooking, and that's how the first cookbook came about.
Oh, wow. So it was through work you found that pivot of a cookbook.
Yeah.
Did you always love food?
Always loved food. I have a really sensitive nose and a really sensitive palate. I mean, I've never been to culinary school, and I've never owned a restaurant. I'm not a chef. I don't want to be. But I really enjoyed cooking because I came from Indian culture and then spent most of my
best food in the world.
Yeah, and then spent most of my 20s in Europe and got an education in Italy and France. And I really just went on book tour to publicize this little tiny cookbook. And I was on the Food Network, and then they asked me to come back 3 weeks later to do another thing. And then they asked me again, and I was like, you know, you should pay me for the, you know, like, this is not about my book anymore.
It's me coming on your network.
Yeah, so they did. They gave me a development deal, and that is how I got my first show called Padma's Passport. And then I did another series after that for British television, but it was a co-production with the Food Network called Planet Food. And it was really the ancestor of Taste the Nation. And, you know, it was like before Bourdain, but with better hair. You know? So, then after that, I soon got Top Chef. And I just have been on Top Chef forever, and I've, you know, been writing books.
You did 19 seasons of that. How did your role as the host evolve from like the time you started till when you were finishing, and what part of that evolution was the most challenging?
If you look at the format of the show and you're looking at it from the point of view of the audience member, you may not notice the difference at all in how my role changed, because the structure is the same, and I'm doing the same things. I was always doing the quick fire. I was always doing the main jump. You know, I'm the face of the show. So that hasn't changed. What changed a lot, I think, was behind the scenes. I and my executive producer, we wanted to always push the boundaries of that show. You know, we always outright committed a very blatant form of affirmative action, which we believed in, which was having an equal amount of female to male chefs, because that's not what the professional food industry actually looks like. It's, you know, it's, other than the military, it's the most male-dominated field in our country. For us, that wasn't enough, though. We started that way, but I and she really wanted to bring in more brown voices, more different points of view food-wise, and just globalize what you saw on Top Chef, because we wanted to be a mirror of the culture, and we wanted to show attention to types of cuisines that weren't getting that much play. It also became boring for me to have another set of white male French trained chefs. Like, we know that story, and it's an important story, but it's not the only story. When I first started the show, you know, they wanted me to be really serious, and, you know, they wanted to create that tension. That's why you have all this music coming in at the, you know, da-da-da-da-da, you know, right at the moment to amplify the suspense of it all. But I think as the seasons went on, and as I got more comfortable in my role, but also the audience and the general TV public got more used to seeing me, and the more I did press, you could see the tenor of the questions changing. You could see the kinds of press I was being asked to do changing, and you know, I think that was a major achievement that to the average TV viewer they may not notice, but in just the rooms that I was asked to be in were different. I was always one of the first and only brown faces in them. I was often one of the few women in them, and that's still the case. Like when I go into a lot of meetings, I'm the only non-white person you see.
And did you enjoy that? Did you enjoy breaking down those walls, or did you like, fuck, here we go again?
Both. I think the answer is both. I was glad I was invited to be there, and I'm glad it was me, but it was lonely.
Of course.
I'm used to translating who I am and my culture for everybody that I ever meet. I don't mind doing that, but it does get exhausting.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you know what that's like too.
I know exactly what that's like.
And so it's like translating the culture for people who have invited you to that meeting because they want a slice of that culture that you
understand
bring.
it from you, yes.
They want to understand it, and they want to be able to monetize it because they're smart enough to smell that that's where, you know, the money is going, because that's where the interest is, but still convincing them, like they know it's cool, but they don't know why it's cool. So you have to sort of explain to them why it's cool, which makes it, of course, not cool then.
Of course, yes,
Like in the end, and so it's tedious.
When you decided after 19 seasons, how did you get certain that like, okay, this is it, I'm done? How did you, that's not a thing that comes naturally, A. And then right after, was there any uncertainty professionally?
It was a scary thing to leave a very successful show that is in 170 different countries, that brings me endorsements, that brings me name recognition, that is wonderful and critically acclaimed as well as loved by the public. But like, I wasn't challenging myself. I was bored, is the truth.
How long were you bored before you said, I'm out?
For a while. I knew it was time to go for a long time. But I had to get my ducks in a row, and Taste the Nation was part of getting my ducks in a row. I wanted to prove to people what I would do if I had all the decision-making power. You know, the creative decisions on Top Chef are not mine. I mean, I contribute to them as a producer, but that show was fully cooked, and then I was placed into it. There's more of my personality in Taste the Nation than in any other professional thing I've done. I mean, most of the work that I do on Taste the Nation is behind the camera.
Before the cameras roll.
Totally. And long after.
And after, yes. Now that you're in that different role, you still have the other role too. You're both, you kind of have this split role. Do you think about success in a different way? Have you read, like, success for you on Top Chef versus success for you on Taste the Nation?
They're very different. Top Chef is hugely successful, and it's hugely entertaining. But to me, like, it's not the kind of programming that I watch, you know? So I'm somebody that reads the New York Times, and I'm somebody who likes history, and by the way, I fully admit that I'm in the minority, that, you know, a lot of my tastes are not mass. They're, you know, so it's a problem when you're trying to do business, because you want to make sure that you cater to enough eyeballs on the screen that you get greenlit and stay greenlit. Like, that's, you know, that's a legit concern that every producer has. Success looks to me like doing something new in the marketplace, not following.
Got it.
You know, so Taste the Nation, in my humble opinion, started a whole renaissance in travel food shows, you know, and I can point to 7 shows that came after that also do it well, but do it, you know, in a different way than I would. But so everyone sort of caught on to the Taste the Nation vibe. You know, when we started out 4 years ago, nobody was doing it, and now everybody's doing it. So I always want to stay ahead of the pack. You know, I wouldn't have the quality of life I have if it wasn't for those 19 seasons on Top Chef. My child and I would not enjoy all of the wonderful things in our life that we have if I hadn't paid my dues. But at this point in my life, I'm willing to take bigger professional and creative risks, because success to me is not just about making money, it's about making enough money so you have, you know, no worries and you can pay your staff and stuff. But like, to me, success is really about stretching yourself creatively and intellectually. And that requires you to start at the bottom much more consistently. That requires you to have a measure of humility and a measure of a lack of ego to say, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, of course. And I enjoy it. And
Yeah.
to walk into that uncertainty and not knowing.
Yeah.
With each pivot, you have to start over and learn a whole new skill. Do you like diving into new things and having to start over?
I think I like to be challenged, and I think I get bored easily. I'm super proud of Top Chef, and it's certainly the longest job I've had. But at some point, like I really wanted to go back to doing something more creative. I think I like challenging myself and learning. I think I am a lifelong learner. Like I'm happiest when I'm in discovery, even of myself, but just of a new world that I've never really tried to swim in. That excites me. It's also scary because you never, right now I'm established in the food world, so there are a lot of doors that are open to me that weren't open, a decade ago. And so it wouldn't be intelligent if I didn't take those opportunities as they came. But those opportunities, while lucrative, are less interesting to me from an intellectual standpoint. Like there's a lot of things that I'm starting to do now where I literally make no money,
And why do you choose to do those?
Because I'm learning. Because I'm exercising a different muscle. And whether publicly it's a big win, privately it's a huge win. It's sort of a personal best because I'm not known for those things. I don't have any guarantees about whether I'll even be good at them. But the thrill of doing something new is really addictive to me.
Do you feel like food and kind of culinary, you will stick in this for a while? If you had to look out over the next 10 or 15 years, will you still be doing something in and around food, or will you, because over your life, you've always found something new?
I will not just stay in the culinary world. I've already diversified my professional projects so that they're more, actually right in this moment, they're more in the scripted world, they're more developing projects as a producer. But I love food, and I will always have a hand in that world because I'm very passionate about food. I think we have a lot to learn about the global South and the way that they approach food that we really haven't yet. We're just starting to find out about the tip of that iceberg, and I'd like to be there because I've been waiting for it for a long time as somebody from the global South myself. So I'll always do something around food. But I can do that stuff in my sleep. Right now, my focus is on stretching myself, and it's about learning new skills. I will always be telling stories. Food may not be the way that I tell those stories necessarily. But I think every piece of entertainment, whether it's a movie, a TV show, a book, whether it's scripted or non-scripted, has to tell a story, has to have a narrative structure, has to have a payoff at the end of the film or the episode or whatever. The audience has to feel some sort of closure, or some sort of satisfaction.
Yeah, the ending of something.
Yeah, and that I take very seriously. I take the audience's attention very seriously, and that is who I'm beholden to. That viewer, that reader is who is my boss.
Thank you for coming on the show. You are
my pleasure.
Maverick. Fun spending time with you. I could talk to you all day.